Overthinking is a mental prison. Action is the key that unlocks the door. When you find yourself caught in the endless cycle of what if and should I, it feels as though you're walking in circles inside a room with no exits. Your thoughts become walls. Your doubts become locks. Your fears become guards standing at every corner. And the worst part is that this prison is invisible. No one else can see it, but you feel every inch of it pressing in on you, tightening your chest, fogging your mind, and making even simple decisions feel heavy. The more you think without acting, the thicker those walls become. Overthinking doesn't give you control. It takes it from you. It tricks you into believing that if you replay a situation enough times, you will finally discover the perfect answer, the safe route, or the risk-free plan. But the truth is that perfection is a moving target, and certainty is a luxury you rarely get before you take the first step. Thinking alone will not protect you from mistakes. It will only protect you from progress. Action, no matter how small, is the master key that opens the door. With a single step forward, the walls begin to shift, the locks begin to loosen, the guards disappear. Action creates movement, and movement creates clarity. When you do something, anything, the situation becomes real, not theoretical. You stop imagining what might happen and start experiencing what is actually happening. And that shift, that transition from imagination to reality, is where freedom begins. Think about how many times your mind has magnified a problem into something far bigger than it truly was. How many nights you've stayed awake replaying conversations that never happened, worrying about outcomes that never came true, hesitating on dreams because you feared someone's opinion or your own potential failure. Overthinking doesn't just drain your energy, it steals your moments. It robs you of opportunities, relationships, creativity, and peace. Every hour spent trapped in mental loops is an hour not spent building the life you want. But action cuts through the fog. It doesn't wait for courage. It creates courage. It doesn't require confidence. It builds confidence. When you act, you give yourself evidence. Evidence that you are capable. Evidence that you can handle discomfort. Evidence that you can learn, grow, adjust, adapt, and move forward. Your mind stops fighting you when your actions start supporting you. Most people are not defeated by external challenges. They are defeated by internal hesitation. They are not held back by the world. They are held back by the prisons they've built in their own minds. Fear of judgment, fear of failure, fear of making the wrong choice. But every fear you face shrinks, and every fear you avoid grows. The longer you sit in indecision, the heavier it becomes. The longer you wait for the right moment, the more your confidence fades. Action breaks that pattern. And action doesn't need to be dramatic. You don't have to overhaul your whole life overnight. A small step is enough to break the cycle. Send the message. Apply for the opportunity. Break the task into one tiny piece and finish that piece. You don't have to be fast. You don't have to be fearless. You just have to move. Because motion feeds progress, and progress feeds your belief in yourself. When you begin acting, your environment shifts. Possibilities appear where your doubts convinced you none existed. You discover strengths you forgot you had. You get real experiences instead of imagined fears. You no longer guess, you learn. You no longer hope, you test. You no longer plan endlessly, you execute. And execution gives you something overthinking never will: momentum. Momentum transforms your state of mind. Once you start moving, the prison door swings open wider. You begin to realize that the limits you felt were never walls. They were shadows cast by your own hesitation. The world becomes bigger. Your confidence grows stronger. Your decisions become clearer. You trust yourself more deeply. And each action becomes another key unlocking another door. Tonight, you have a choice. Continue thinking about the steps you need to take, or take one. Continue imagining how life could change, or change one thing now. Continue replaying what worries you, or redirect that energy into what empowers you. Your future will not be shaped by doubts you entertain, but by actions you commit to. Your mind creates both fear and faith. Choose which one you will feed tonight. This simple truth has the power to reshape your entire life, because everything you think, feel, and become starts with the seed you plant in your own imagination. Your mind is a fertile field, always working, always creating, always producing something. But the harvest you see tomorrow depends entirely on what you feed it tonight. And the first thing you must understand is this. Fear and faith both come from the same place, your thoughts. Fear is imagination directed toward destruction. Faith is imagination directed toward possibility. Fear whispers, what if everything goes wrong? Faith responds, what if everything goes right? Fear shows you the shadows. Faith shows you the light behind them. Fear locks you in place. Faith moves you into action. Both exist in you. Both are powerful. But only one can lead your life. Only one will grow stronger based on the attention you give it. Every fear you dwell on grows teeth. Every doubt you replay gains force. Every negative story you tell yourself becomes a chain wrapped around your potential. Fear feeds on your time, your energy, your imagination, and eventually your identity. When you give fear your focus, you allow it to build entire worlds inside your mind. Worlds where you fail. Worlds where you're judged. Worlds where you are not enough. And even though these worlds aren't real, you start living as if they are. But faith works the same way. When you feed it, it expands, it strengthens, it takes shape until it becomes a guiding force instead of a distant idea. Faith builds worlds too. Worlds where you rise, where you grow, where you succeed, where you become the version of yourself you've been dreaming about. Faith gives you courage in the face of uncertainty. Faith turns obstacles into stepping stones and setbacks into lessons. It doesn't erase difficulty. It gives you the strength to face difficulty with purpose instead of panic. And tonight, especially tonight, you must choose which one you will feed, because your mind is listening to you more closely in the quiet hours. When the world slows, when the noise fades, when you are alone with your thoughts, your imagination becomes louder. This is where fear likes to creep in, whispering worst-case scenarios, replaying old mistakes, amplifying insecurity. But this is also where faith becomes possible, where you can look inward, breathe deeply, and choose thoughts that build you rather than break you. Your mind cannot hold fear and faith with equal strength at the same time. One will always dominate. And whichever one dominates will direct your decisions, your mood, your hope, your steps. If fear dominates, you hesitate. You settle. You shrink. You stay where you are because you believe moving forward is unsafe. If faith dominates, you advance, you reach, you grow, you attempt the impossible because you believe it might just be possible. The most successful, fulfilled, and peaceful people in the world are not those who never felt fear. They're the ones who learned how to feed faith more than fear. They trained their minds to focus on possibility over paralysis. They learned that fear is loud but not always truthful, that doubt is persistent but not always accurate, and that courage is not something you wait for but something you create by choosing faith repeatedly, especially when it feels difficult. And make no mistake, fear is easier to feed. It comes automatically. It doesn't require effort. It rushes in the moment you imagine the unknown. Fear thrives in uncertainty and grows in silence. But faith requires intention. It requires discipline. It requires choosing thoughts that empower you even when fear tries to convince you they're unrealistic. Faith is not wishful thinking. Faith is disciplined thinking. It is the deliberate act of saying, I believe something good can come from this. I believe I can handle what I face. I believe tomorrow can be better than today. I believe I am capable, strong, and guided. Feeding faith doesn't mean ignoring reality. It means shaping reality with courage instead of surrendering to it with worry. Tonight, before you drift into sleep, take a moment to choose what your mind will feast on. Will it feast on fear, on the possibilities that drain you and the outcomes that frighten you? Or will it feast on faith, on the possibilities that strengthen you and the outcomes that inspire you? Feed faith by focusing on what you can control. Feed faith by remembering the challenges you've already overcome. Feed faith by visualizing success instead of failure. Feed faith by speaking kindly to yourself. Feed faith by believing that your life is still unfolding in your favor. Your mind is your greatest ally when you guide it, and your greatest enemy when you leave it unmanaged. So guide it tonight, direct it, teach it what to believe. Because your thoughts become your emotions become your actions, and your actions become your destiny. And destiny is not written by fear. Destiny is written by faith. A decisive step forward is more powerful than 1,000 perfect plans. You can sit with your thoughts for years, mapping out every detail, adjusting every angle, refining every idea until it shines like a polished diamond. You can write plans in notebooks in your mind on your vision boards, telling yourself that you're preparing, organizing, getting ready, but a plan, no